So I've been a Toggle user for years, and when Notion released this API, I thought I'll just connect Toggle to Notion so that I can have all of that time tracking information stored in a Notion database. But then once I started connecting the two, I thought, why not just cut out Toggle altogether? Hey friends, welcome back to Automated Notion, the place where we put your Notion to work for you. I am Nikki Davison, and today I'm going to be reviewing my time tracker database. I recently posted a screenshot of my time management dashboard on Twitter, and it got a lot of reactions and requests to record a walkthrough. So I figure I will dust off my camera and my YouTube and post a video here for you today. Here I have my time management dashboard. At the top here, you see that I have two charts, time spent by type and time spent by client. Now, this is the part where I get the most questions on how exactly do you get charts into Notion, and I'm going to save that to the end. You're going to have to watch through the video to find out how I get these charts in here. In the middle here, I have this is basically a link to my project management database. And I have a task here called record video. And then I have a property, a select property here. You can't really tell that because the emoji is tiny. But I'm going to go ahead and flip this to on. We have two options, on and off. On meaning I want to start tracking my time now. We're going to go ahead and flip that on. And then, of course, I have my start, my due dates, my status and progress, my client, my time tag is basically what type of task is this or what is this task related to? That I can see where my time is breaking down. Am I spending most of my time on automations versus website management? And I can kind of adjust as I go. And then below here, we have our recent timer entries. These are our recent entries into our time tracker database. We have our action, which is the same name as our task, our start time, stop time, the tag, which is the same as what's in our task that's going to carry through, is also going to carry through the project, the client. We have the time spent. This is going to break down, yay, good timing. Let's open this up. This is our entry that when I turned my task on, the automation added this. It took about like a minute or two to come through. It usually doesn't take more than 2 minutes to come through. Now, usually I'm in the middle of working on this task. I don't even stop to check to make sure that this added in because it's been working consistently. Let's open this up. We have the name, the start time, and now stop time. It has not been filled in because we're still working. The time will break down between hours and minutes. And then I also have time in hours and time in minutes. The reason why I have two different ones is because when I was setting this up, I wasn't sure how I wanted to see the time. The time spent broken down, written out like this is this is just for my dashboard. I can look at a glance, whereas the time in hours, it relates back to my project. If I go down to my project and I scroll over, you see I have an hours roll up and I can see how many hours I have spent on this one project. And then, of course, we have our tag. Now, the time in minutes, I actually don't think I'm using this property, but I just kept it in here because I didn't want to delete it just in case it's actually rolling up to something that I forgot about. So let's hop into our first automation, and that's going to be on the website, thegist.so. This is the gist. If you have not checked this website out and you're interested in automations, please check this out. It is such a simple website to utilize, but you can do really big things with it. It's an automation app strictly for Notion. They don't do any other apps but Notion. And you can create rules so if something happens in one database, it shows up in another. So if you click a checkbox, it can create a new entry on a separate database. You can have, if a task is assigned to you, you can have an email be sent to you that alerts you that a task has been assigned. There's a lot of things you can do. It can pick up read formulas. And oh, who's that right there? That's me. The gist is the missing link in my workflows. That is so true, especially because I use Integromat a lot. And if you have any experience with Integromat, it is constantly running and checking your databases with the gist. I use webhooks and it only runs when I need it. I think if you're really into automations, one rule is not going to be enough for you. I do think that if you really into this, you're going to want to choose a pricing plan. For a personal is for 4 rules is $5 a month. For a small team, you get 16 rules for $20 a month. This is where I'm at, even though I'm one person, because I love automations. I'm hooked on this stuff, so I have a lot going on. So here are all of my rules. As you can see, I have a lot. I think I'm at 15. I'm about to hit that 16 limit, but I think that's going to be it. I say that now. But my very first automation, as you can see here, was my timer on and my timer off. So we'll go ahead and open this up so you can see how this looks. So this is my timer on rule, and it's fairly simple. In my project management database, and you can select any database that you have connected here. Then we're saying if my stopwatch matches on, then call a webhook. And I have an webhook created in Integromat here. So I'm not going to send any test data because you guys already saw it populate when we were taking a look at my dashboard. But let's look at the off rule. And it's the same exact thing, only this time, if my stopwatch property matches off, then it calls a separate webhook in Integromat. Let's go ahead and go to Integromat. Here I have my timer on scenario within Integromat. If you've watched my past videos on how to create a Apple shortcut connected to Notion, then you're familiar with how to create a webhook. It's the same premise. So to add one of these modules, you just go down here to the plus sign and you can see all the different apps that are available and you would just search for webhooks to create the module. And then once you've added it to your scenario, you go in here and click add, and then just create the name for your webhook. And it'll populate a link here for you to copy to your clipboard and then paste it in the gist. And then once you run this, it'll pull through all the information from the gist. So next I have my get a database item module. It's been so long since I've come into this because I've been running this automation since September and it runs so well that I never have to go in here. That's what you want with an automation. You want to never have to think about how it's operating on the back end. You just want it to work when you need it to work. So I had to come in here and kind of refamiliarize myself with it. And I was confused as to why I have a get database item module here when my webhook is bringing in all my information. The reason being is because I have a relation property for my project. And sometimes relations don't come through the way you expect. It comes through, it just shows it as a collection. It doesn't actually provide me with the ID. So that is why I have my get database item module here. And its only role here is to pull up the page ID of my task so that I can get the project page ID. I hope that made sense. Lastly, we have a create database item. Here you see is pulling through the name of my task. Here's where that project ID was. So this is my project relation right here. And you can see it just says collection. It doesn't actually have the page ID, even though I know it came through. Confusing, I know. So that is why I have to map it through from the get database item module. Okay, and then next we have, I just got a reminder that my timer is on. That's what that noise was. I'm going to explain that right after this. So now we're filling in our start time as now, which is basically the time that this webhook ran. I always forget to mark yes when it says include time because the default is no. So sometimes if you're going really quick through these things, you might miss something. I really wish that they actually move this closer up to the top. And then we have our tag, then our client department, and then that's it. So that is the complete timer on scenario. Now let's do timer off. Here we have our timer off scenario. And actually, let's go back to our time management dashboard. And I'm going to go ahead and toggle this off. So we're starting off with our webhook, and then we have our search objects module. Our filter here is that we want the task tracker entry that has the same name as our task. Now, obviously, this is going to bring up all the trackers for that task. So we have an additional filter, and we're saying the condition is that the stop time does not exist. I originally tried to have this filter within the search objects, but it didn't work out. So I didn't stress over it, just created a separate filter here. So if the stop time does not exist, we can assume that that task, that tracker is still running. We have our updated database item, and the only thing we're doing here is entering our stop time. And when I first started setting this up, I was trying to figure out the premise, like how I was going to set this up, and I had different things connected to it. So I was getting a lot of errors. I haven't gotten an error, I think, in months, but just in case I have an ignore module here, and basically if there is an error, it's going to ignore it. It'll still alert me. It'll send me an email warning me that there was an error, but it'll ignore it and keep going. If I did not have this here and there was an error, Integromat lets you have 3 errors in a row before it completely shuts off your scenario. Okay, now let's go back to our dashboard, see if this filled in, and it did. So I'll stop time filled in at 2:06. And as you can see, time spent is 22 minutes. There's actually one final step in this automation, because what if you forgot to turn your timer off? And that happens a lot. I know when I was using Toggle, I would just completely forget that I was working. Like, I would get distracted and you come back and you see, you've been working on the same project for the last 12 hours. Like, you just forgot to turn it off. I know Toggle does send you notifications like, hey, you've got a timer running here. And that's basically what this next premise is based on. So if I have a timer still running, I have a search objects module here. And this is set up, I think right now I have it set up every 2 hours. I can adjust this to be every hour, or how often you want it to run. So our filter here is it's checking the stopwatch property to see if it's on. And so if it does find one that's on, and we have one that says page ID exists. Now, the reason why I have that here is because sometimes you might have instance where it'll run and it won't find anything, but that's considered successful. It won't stop. It'll just keep going. And so then you'll get an empty message or an empty entry into your database. So for this scenario, I have filter here that it has to actually have a page ID. Like, there actually has to be a page that is labeled on. If you don't find anything, then this automation needs to stop. These next 2 modules here are connected to the Integromat mobile app. So we have Apple iOS, and this is connected to the app on my phone, which I'll show you in a minute. Our title here is timer running. In the body of the notification, it'll say your timer for, and whatever the task name is still running. And then I have it mapping the page link for that task, so that when I tap on it, it'll open it up. It says open browser, but it'll actually open up in the Notion app. And then I have another one down here for my MacBook Air. While Integromat doesn't have a desktop app, thanks to the latest Mac OS updates, you can install mobile apps onto your computer. So I just simply installed the mobile app onto my computer and just make sure that is running while I'm working. So this is what the mobile app looks like. Basically, you would give it access to notifications. You also have the option of giving it access to your contacts, calendar, photos, your GPS, and reminders. And you would just have this open in the background. You don't need to close it or do anything else with it. Just log in. So I'm going to just do a test run in Integromat so you can see what the notification looks like. And there we have our notification. Your timer for record video is still running. And so when I get this notification, I can just tap on it And as you can see, it'll take me to the task that is still on, and I just go ahead and flip it off. And now for the good part, the chart. So how do I populate these charts? Well, I'm using a website called, let's go back here. I'm using a website called notioncharts.io. And so as you can see here, I've got 4 different charts. I have my time spent by type and time by client. I also have a fitness tracker that I'm still working on. If, a number of people said that they were interested in that template, but I keep coming up with ideas. So I don't want to release it until it's smooth. But I have a weight loss chart and a water graph that goes into my fitness tracker. And as far as pricing goes, let's take a look at pricing. We're looking at $199 per month for unlimited charts. So I think you get, what, 5 charts? What did it say back here? So I have 1 chart left on the free plan. So you get 5 charts within a free plan, which it's awesome. So let's go into time spent by type. Okay, so my x-axis, I have we're sorting this by tags, and then time by hours, sort by created. So I'm grouping by sum. So the total number of hours for each tag. Now over here we have our chart types. So I could do this as a bar graph. I can do this as a pie chart, but I particularly like donuts in more ways than one. So then we have our colors. You cannot choose your colors. I'm wondering if these colors correspond to Notion colors, and you can also do single color. And I think, oh, you can choose your colors for a single color. And then you have your title and labels. Now, as you can see, there's no way of filtering the data. That's the drawback here. And I did reach out to them a while ago, and they said that they were working on that. I know that there are other chart sites that does allow you to filter it, but when I went to go look at them, they didn't do everything that I needed them to do. So I'm sticking with notioncharts.io until I can find a better replacement. Hopefully I won't have to do that, and they'll release the filtering feature soon. And then up here you have your dark mode and refresh data. And to get this into Notion, you just copy the embed URL. Let me just show you how to do that. So you just click copy, paste the link. Okay, it took a moment there, but there you have it. And then you just adjust what size you want. One feature that I really like about this is that you can hover over your data and you can see it's, time in hours 3.6. Like, I think that's really awesome. But the best part is, okay, so let's duplicate this entry. Let's change this time to like 4:06 p.m. So we have 2 hours and 20 minutes here. But you know what? Let's actually change the tag to automations, and we'll change this to client number 2. Let's spell client right first. Okay, now let's refresh. And you can see we have automations tag has been added, refresh over here, client number 2. So this updates in real time. And it's like just super quick about it. I love that because I love when you're entering the data, like when on my weight tracker, when I enter my new weight, if I've lost, I love just seeing that graph go downward. It's the little things that get me excited. So let me go ahead and delete this so it doesn't mess up my hours. So that is it. That is my time tracker automation. Hopefully that all made sense. Comment below if you want me to go more into the gist. I forgot to add the reason why I don't have the gist, just add a new database item to the time tracker is because that project relation property. If I remember correctly, it doesn't carry through relations. Carrying through relations always throws a curveball. So that is why I'm not using the just strictly to create a database item. But if you'd like for me to go in depth about that, I do have a scenario they all have their different names. And the gist is the rule. I do have a rule that for my social media planning, if a social media post is scheduled in my project database, then the gist will create an item for that post within my calendar because I have a separate calendar database from my project database. And also, I forgot to give a shout out to Red Gregory. That's where I got the formulas from. If you haven't been to redgregory.com, check out Red's website, YouTube channel. I don't even, half the time, I don't even bother try to come up with the formulas. I'd be like, I'm pretty sure Red has already come up with that. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe so you can get notified when I upload videos. I tried to block it so you wouldn't see that my wallpaper is peeling. That's the result of having a 4-year-old. It likes to pick with stuff.